People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right, on today's episode, we have an actor, a producer, somebody I'm a huge fan of, and coincidentally, my boss, kind of, everybody. It's Scott Valentine. What's up, buddy? How are you?
I am not your boss. We're teammates, man. We're teammates.
right.
We are
All
working together. Your boss is right there in the plum colored shirt. Is that what that is? Plum?
That's
Hi,
my
honey.
immediate vicinity boss.
Really? No, your boss are those weans that are about this tall, right? Those.
Oh, Lordy. The way they talk back sometimes, you would think so, but we get them in line. Don't you worry.
Half now, man. We got
This
11-year-olds.
This gray hair is from my 4 bosses. Okay.
No, my.
How old are your bosses?
Oh, they're now 37, 35, 30, and 24.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're done. You're done.
I'm done. That's it. I'm done. No
All right.
more.
So I've been on your podcast. Was that for Red Coral Universe? Was that for them, or was that something? What podcast was I on where I talked to you a while back?
That's for Larry and I started that during the pandemic, and it is on Red Coral Universe. You can find it on our streaming service. Our streaming service, Red Coral Universe. Okay, for folks, it's on. We're on Roku. We're on Fire Stick. We're on Google Chromecast. We're on if you have an iPhone, if you have an Android, we're available. Our app is on all those phones. We will be on the top 4 smart TVs. I think Samsung, LG, Hisense, Vizio, and we are available on the internet at www.redcoraluniverse.com, and you can find Wes Iseli's Magiclife podcast on there as well, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, you can find the television show. You can't find the podcast yet, but
That's right.
I want to talk to you about. We want to talk to you about the podcast. Let's get that on too.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. Right. And we started as a podcast, and now it's a television show. And what we started doing, Wes and Natalie, is throughout the pandemic, we felt people, when things get a little bit too real, when they get a little bit, freaky, they turn to artists. And you two are artists. Magic is an art, and it really is an art. And when things get too real, people turn to religion, or they turn to art. And sometimes they turn to sports, and sport is a certain kind of art as well. So we thought we wanted to have folks on the show that are artists of sort, and tell listeners, tell the audience, how did they cope with, how have they gotten through strife, and how do they deal with adversity, and what did they do to be able to cope, to rise above. And you are a guy, and I'm sure you and Natalie have had adversity and have had strife in your life, and there are ways that you find that you cope, that you deal with. There are ways that folks need to know how to find other avenues of coping mechanisms, other than drugs, other than alcohol, other than going out and screaming at the tree and beating it, or hopefully not beating their significant other. And a lot of times folks turn to artists, and whether it's poetry, whether it's a play, whether it's a novel, whether it's painting, and whether it's magic. And really, it's funny, I want to turn the table here and say, tell us about your art. I want to know how you guys do your magic, because I find it so fascinating. And I don't know, I'm sure the listeners, this is your show, but the fact that you have fooled Penn and Teller, two of the preeminent, do we call them magicians? Do we call them, that you've been able, because I watch that show. I love that show, and I'm a big fan of theirs. And that are you the only one that has ever
No, they say about 10% of the contestants fooled them. You can
Uh-huh.
Wikipedia, there's a whole list of magicians that's fooled them. But I was the first one to fool them where they love my trick so much they bought the rights from me and they perform my trick in their show every night.
Right.
Okay.
That's a first.
And I'm not sure the artist or the audience realizes it. I think, and this is just from sitting here, on the sidelines watching, in order to be a great magician, you've got to be pretty gosh darn smart. And I think also to be a great comedian, you've got to be really smart as well. Because for a comedian, you've got to be able to, everybody pretty much views everything from here. A comedian's got to be able to come over here and see it from this angle, and then be able to get a majority of the folks in the room or in the audience or that are watching, be able to see it from that angle as well and go, oh my gosh, he's right. Ah, ha, ha, ha. And you have got to, most folks are seeing it here, and you've got to get them to see it from this angle and believe that it's from this angle. And it's very, it's very, I don't want to use, the term that came to mind, I don't even want to use. It's really lofty, and I don't want you getting a big head, because Natalie's already told me that you're quite difficult to deal with sometimes at home.
Well, we're 5 minutes in. You've already told me that you're.
He's gonna cut past that.
Yeah, I'm just.
I was about to say, you don't want to have to make his hats a little bigger or anything like that. He's just.
Natalie's not ever going to let me come visit, okay? Because she's.
Oh yes, absolutely, you can come visit.
This is why I love the podcast.
Awesome.
This is why I love the podcast. I get somebody I've looked up to since I was 10 years old on the podcast that says I must be smart. He loves my work. I love it. I love everything about it. Man, you're great. Yeah, that's all you're doing is just putting yourself in deeper and deeper.
Well, and think about it. Think about what you do, what you guys do, and what I do, and I've done for years. And think about the people that we get to meet, and think about we get to meet either our heroes, or we get to meet people that we're like, God, you were cool. You were really good. You really, you did that thing so well. I mean, I remember when I got to meet Michael Jordan.
Oh wow!
And I hosted the award show for Nike corporate, and I did up some skits and jokes, and was the guy that gave out the awards to the corporate family, and they gave out a corporate award to Michael Jordan, and got to hang out with him for a little bit, and to be able to, a guy who has achieved such success, and to be such a driven individual, and you hear the stories of how driven he is, and how maybe sometimes a little bit too much, but to have somebody share a little bit of their story with you is really phenomenal. I'd love to, and I keep on, and I know this is supposed to be you guys interviewing me, but I want to keep asking you guys questions as much. We had you on, and our show, folks who are watching, is Why Should I Listen to Them? Kind of a long title, but I think Wes and Natalie are folks that we should listen to, that they have a very unique and positive perspective on the world.
Thank you.
You're the best, man. You're the best. Well, we got to turn this around. We're 8 minutes in. We don't know anything about you, though. Can you throw the dog in the babysitter's room real quick? We have a storm coming through, and she's banging on our door. I just don't want that coming in. Tell me about how you got started in show business. I mean, you were, according to IMDb, you had a part in a movie, and the next thing you know, you're doing 40 episodes on Family Ties. Is that how it happened? Or how big was that role before?
Let's go back even a little bit further, okay?
Please.
I grew up in a small town, Saratoga Springs, New York, upstate New York. And in high school, we love you, Natalie. We love you for putting that doggy away. What kind of doggy is it?
Miniature collie.
Yes.
We ended up getting it on a television show. They needed it for a bit, and then it didn't have a home, so we took it in. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He or she?
She. Her name's Casey, and she hates thunderstorms, but she's a sweetheart.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to meet Casey. We love doggies. Okay.
Oh,
all right.
We're big dog fans at Red Coral. Okay.
Absolutely.
We love doggies. You remember Larry, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's very difficult to do a Zoom call or a Teams call or anything without having Ash and Frankie participate in the call. And in about an hour, Ash, who's a 150-pound silver lab, will be up in Larry's lap telling everybody it's dinner time. Come on, Dad, it's dinner.
That's great.
Anyway, I grew up in a small town. I was a horrible student in high school. Not horrible, just not that. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was working at the local newspaper, and I got offered a job. The newspaper was owned by a big corporate conglomerate, and they offered me to go to Guam to be the sports editor of the Guam Journal. And I was like, oh, great, I'll go to Guam. That'll be fun. I'll meet Guamian babes and hang out on the beach with some Guamian babes, and sort of like who's that guy that does that song, the Margaritaville,
There you go. Yeah.
It won't be Margaritaville, it'll be Guamaritaville, whatever. And then there was an attempted coup d'etat in Guam, and I was like, screw this, I'm not going to Guam. So I went to college at the local community college, and my first semester at college, I got a 1.7 GPA.
Ouch.
My second semester, I did even better, Natalie. I got a 1.32. And then I discovered they were having auditions for a play. Audition, got a part, and I liked it. And you know what? I realized the research I was doing for the play was the same research I could apply for like my term paper for my lit class and for my civics class and for my history class. And I wrote the same paper for each class, and I just put a different title on it. And my grades all of a sudden went from a 1.32 up to like a 3.5.
Wow.
And not only that, I started to get more dates. And I was like, this is great. I'm getting good grades. I'm meeting more girls.
Hey, the dates motivate you.
What could make this better? Money. Well, what do we got to do? We got to leave Podunk, and we've got to either go to New York or Chicago or LA. So, and it's funny, I'm writing a book. And the title, I'm not sure what the title is going to be, but I found some stuff with my mom dying and going through all the stuff in the house. I found like my old report cards and, old pictures and yada, yada. And I found this, this little thing you had to fill out at the community college where you were applying to transfer to. And I found these colleges that I had applied to transfer to where I'd gotten into all these colleges. And in schools like Carnegie Mellon and ACT and Stony Brook and SUNY Purchase. And for some reason, I chose the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City. And that's where I went. And I'm so glad I went. And I went there because, and I think the reason I chose it was it is still the oldest acting school in the United States. It's been around since the 1880s. And I thought, I want to go there. That's only for acting. That's all they do. And I went, graduated with honors, got out of school, and about a year after I got out, I was hit, run over, and dragged by a truck. I thought you knew that. Did you know?
I did, but I forgot all about it.
Yeah.
I forgot all.
Did forget about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I died.
I mean, yeah. How did I? Yeah.
You got a lot of it, dude. You got. Are your kids twins? Are your kids twins?
Yeah.
Identical twins. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are like, come on, you're on a
No,
switch.
but
You're lucky you know your name when you get up in the morning. So, anyway, so that happened. It took 2 years to recoup. I went to work again, try to work again in New York City because I was on the way to my agents. I'd been offered a soap opera. I also had auditioned for a big feature film. Wasn't offered the feature film, but I wanted to do the feature. Of course, my agent was like, no, do the soap opera. And I'm like, no, I want to do the feature film. Soap opera, feature, soap opera, feature. And the deal is that, when I tried to get work again, the people in New York were like, you're like a tinker toy. You're going to fall apart. We can't hire you. And it wasn't fun. So I was like, screw this. I've got to leave New York and I've got to go to LA where nobody knows about this. And little did I realize, the entertainment industry, it's really about this big, the entertainment industry, kind of like high school. Everybody knows everybody's business. everybody knows what everybody's doing. So I moved to LA in '84, right after the Olympics. Auditioned for 10 months, sometimes 20 times in a week, and got Family Ties. And it was supposed to be a 1-week gig. And at the end of the first week, Gary Goldberg, who was the creator, the executive producer, the Grand Poobah, one of the greatest guys I ever met in Hollywood, came up to me and said, "Look, we kind of like having you around here. Kind of fun. You having fun?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's fun." And I had no idea. I had pretty much I did a couple of small movies in New York. I'm surprised I don't see My Demon Lover, or I see My Demon, there it is. But do you know Dead Time Stories? I don't see Dead Time.
I do. I don't have Dead Time Stories, but I do know it. My dad had a video store. So and yes,
So
absolutely.
Dead Time Stories I did in New York before going to, but was the only film I did. And an ABC after school special. But I didn't know the entertainment industry. And look, I've never been good. Still, I'm 65. I'm not good at that sort of that political gain stuff. People that really have big careers in Hollywood, they know how to play that. There's a thing of acting. There's a thing in the business of how to handle your career as an actor, or your career as an actress, or your career as a director. And then there's that whole game, that whole popularity game, and what you say and who you talk to and who you hang out with. And I'm not good at that lie. There's a certain lie that has to go on. There's a certain pretense and pretending. And I'm not that smart. I'm not that.
Steve, when we worked on a television show, when I was on set, I was hanging out with everybody that was on screen. I was hanging out with the PAs. I was hanging out with catering. I'm showing everybody I'm trying, like I was in high school. I hung out with the jocks. I hung out with the skateboard guys. I hung out with everybody, and they called me a butterfly. And that's the way I was on set. It's like every time a movie ends or a television show ends, it's got to feel like the last day of high school for you. Like you'll never see these friends again. It's got to be, that can't be good. That can't be fun.
No, it sucks. But as you get older, and then you realize, I'll see you again, because it becomes all of a sudden, as you get older, you see, you go on to the next show and you go like, Natalie, hey, Wes, how you doing? And you see the same people again and again and again from show to show to show to show,
Okay. All right.
And you start seeing not even just the same actors and actresses, but you start seeing the same grips, the same gaffers, the same wardrobers, the same props, the same costume designers, the same set designers. And in a way, it's kind of cool because you start to feel like a band of tragedians. You start to feel like a band of gypsies, especially when you're doing small movies. Look, I didn't do except a couple of big movies. Those people that do those big movies where they spent more on their catering budget than I spent on most movies that I did, that I was a part of. It had to feel that way too. But there's a certain sense of, imagine if you're on a football team in college, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you guys, where are you guys? Here in Virginia, right?
Right. Yeah.
All right. So imagine if you're in a small school in the Smoky Mountains and you guys have got sort of a winning record and you go to play Ohio State, right? The big school from the big, the big state, or even more so, you go to play Michigan or somebody with the big program that gets supported by millions of dollars. And when you're that small school and you guys are winning, you hang together. There's something special, and you feel like you're a band of tragedians, like you're a band of vagabonds, like you're a band of gypsies. So there's a certain honor in that, and there's a certain coolness that you like, in that respect, it's kind of fun. It's kind of cool, as long as you're feeding your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
So IMDb said you did over 40 episodes of Family Ties, and then they gave you like your own spinoff, or was it just a pilot? Were they trying it out, or was it a mini movie? I couldn't figure it out from IMDb.
They tried once.
Okay.
They tried twice. They tried 3 times.
Wow.
And it failed 3 times, Wes. You know what happened? First time we did it, and they picked the show up, and it was with Nick and primarily his grandfather, played by Herschel Bernardi. Did you know who Herschel Bernardi was? Herschel
I
Bernardi.
might know the face if I see it now.
Hesh was I say he was an older Jewish guy. Hell, he was younger than I am now. And unfortunately, they picked the show up. Hesh had won an Academy Award. Hesh was the voice of, do you remember Charlie Tuna in the tuna commercial? He was the voice for Charlie Tuna. Great guy. We did the pilot. Back then, they tested them in front of audiences, and it tested high. Great, you got a show. They started doing all the promo photos and all that. And next thing I know, I get a phone call, and they said Hesh died.
Oh.
At 3 a.m, when he was sitting on the porcelain throne trying to have a bowel movement, he had a heart attack.
Oh.
And they said, well, that's okay. We're not going to recast. Come back. Why don't you come back, do another series, another year of Family Ties? I'm like, okay, whatever. Then at the end of that year, they said, hey, let's try a pilot again. I'm like, okay. And then this other writing team wrote a pilot. I'm not going to say who, because they're a very lovely couple, husband and wife. And the pilot wasn't that good.
Mm.
And I was like, nah, guys, I can't. This is not that good. So we didn't do it. And then the next year, they wrote another one, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Elaine from Seinfeld. Essentially, she was playing Elaine before she did Seinfeld. And Ray Baker was in it. He played I went back to live with my sister in New York City. The gal who played my sister, Christine, I can't think of her last name. We did the show. It was good. And what happened was Gary Goldberg, remember I told you Gary Goldberg? He owned Ubu. Remember at the end of Family Ties? Sit, Ubu, sit. That was Gary. Ubu was their dog, Black Lab. And Gary made a deal with NBC. NBC at the time was helmed by Brandon Tartikoff. When they made the deal with NBC, Brandon said, look, we can't shoot it at Paramount where you do your shows. We want to save some money, come up to Burbank and shoot them at the Burbank studios. NBC Productions, NBCP. Gary reluctantly agreed. And the first show they were doing, there's a thing when you're working on a show and you get to 6 hours, you got to take a meal break. And I'm sorry, it's the phone. We'll let it ring.
Okay.
And when the meal break came, usually at Family Ties, they would come and say, will you waive your meal penalty? Now, if you don't waive your meal penalty, it will cost the production company thousands of dollars. Because for every 15 minutes you go past that time you're supposed to have a meal, there's a penalty for Wes, there's a penalty for Natalie, there's a penalty for Scott, there's a penalty for that guy, for that girl, for everybody. And it can be a lot of money. But as you know, when you're rehearsing a bit, when you're rehearsing a new trick, and you're almost getting it, you don't want to break in the middle of it and go, hey, let's go have a meal.
Right.
Let's go eat a bunch of food and slow our metabolism down and get real sleepy and tired. It's just like comedy. Comedy is like music. There's a certain rhythm. It's like a dance. And when you finally start to get it, and it finally starts to happen, you want to keep it going so you can feel it and then make it happen. Comedy is very specific. You've got to have the words right. You've got to have the timing right, because then the audience will laugh. You want a very specific reaction. With the drama, it's okay. You may want to have the audience cry. You may want to have them moan. You may want to have them just be silent. But comedy, you want to laugh. You want one thing and one thing only. So when it came time for the meal penalty, Gary Goldberg goes, well, let's get everybody to waive meal penalty. Remember, they're up at NBC Productions in Burbank, and the crew said, screw you, I'm not waiving my meal penalty.
Oh.
And Gary says, hey, we got to keep going. And Brandon says, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll get it after lunch. And Gary's like, no, I want to keep going. So Gary and Brandon got into a fight. And not a rah, 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 rah. They got into a fight
Oh, gosh.
on a stage in front of the crew, about 100 people, in front of a live audience, about 300 people.
Oh, that's even worse.
And at one point, somebody said to somebody, either you can't have my show, or I don't want your show. Well, you can't have my show. I don't want your show. You can't have my show. You know what show they were talking about?
Yours?
My show.
Darn. Oh, man.
And I never, and then I learned what the numbers were when it was tested. I was never told this until about 2 years later, because the guy who was the executive producer of my show was Bruce Helford. Bruce Helford, who went on to produce Roseanne Barr's show, Charlie Sheen's show, King of Queens, Roseanne Barr's show again. Bruce Helford's all of maybe 5'2", great guy, very cool. And we've maintained a relationship. And then Bruce and I went to lunch one day and we went back to his office. We're kind of hanging out, talking. He goes, man, it really sucks that they got into a fight. I said, who got into a fight? Gary and Brandon got into a fight. I said, what do you mean they got into a fight? Gary and Brandon, they got into a fight on the set. I said, I don't know they got into a fight. About what? He goes, about our show. I said, what do you mean about our show? So Bruce told me the story that I just told you. And the funny thing is, after, because I kept wondering, I kept hearing that the show tested really high. And I have, again, remember I told you the boxes of stuff, like report cards, and framed in there somewhere is when they aired the pilot. Because remember, years ago, they used to air pilots that they didn't pick up in the summer.
Okay.
It's the highest rated pilot ever aired that never got picked up. It had something like a 45 share. That meant 45% of the people watching TV at the time watched that show. Okay. So,
And
the funny thing is, after it went down the toilet, Brandon Tartikoff's like, call me, hey, buddy, how are you, buddy? Gary Goldberg's like, hey, buddy, how are you, buddy? And Gary had offered me a show that got all mucked up. It was this thing called Shooter with David Hume Kennerly, where Gary said, use Scott. And Shooter was our drama based on David Hume Kennerly's life. David Hume Kennerly was a photojournalist who won Pulitzer Prize for his photojournalist work in Vietnam. And behind my back, they decided to hire somebody else. They
Wow.
did. It's like I kept showing up to this studio and there was nobody around, or they don't want to see you. And I'm like, it's kind of weird. Sort of like, when you're dating a girl and all of a sudden she starts ghosting you. And of course, you've never had that happen, Wes, because you're being the handsome guy that you are. And
Not me. Not
then
me.
when you met Natalie, it was like, it was music. There were birds and there was little hearts that were like flying in the air,
But I've stories.
It's like Hollywood is like high school like that. And instead of somebody being an adult and being respectful and calling them, going, look, we want to hire somebody else, not you. We don't think you're right for the role. And it's our prerogative to hire somebody else. So we're going to go another way. It's just like, look, I told you I have another call to do after this. Part of that call is we've got to talk to a guy and tell him we're not hiring you, we're hiring somebody else.
It's not fun on that end either, I guarantee it.
No, it's not, but at least we're having the respect to tell the guy to his face.
Yeah.
Right.
Or at least over a Zoom. So, and it has nothing to do with his talents or his abilities. There are other elements at play. And, so it's just silly stuff like that in Hollywood, which eventually led to that, and having a business manager steal about $1 million from me, led to me going, I think I'm going to produce. And then having deals as a producer, and then having the companies I entered into the deals with not honoring them and them going, "Ah, sorry, we're going another way." Or having other companies go, "Yeah, we're not doing your deal. Go ahead, sue us. Go ahead, sue us. See where you'll get. You're going to be known as a sue happy little sitcom star, huh? Putz."
Oh
So
gosh.
just, I got fed up with the business where I left in 04 and I became an investment banker. I was just, screw it. I've got to feed my kids and I've got to go someplace where people will be honorable and not be schmucks. What a fool I was. There are schmucks everywhere. There are liars, there's scumbags. But the great thing is I met Larry in 2015. You know Larry, you met Larry,
Yeah, yeah.
the partner, and at least Larry's an honorable guy. And to sit, Larry and I sit and laugh, and he had been screwed and schnookered just as much as I have. It's just, so there's sort of the camaraderie we have after being shat upon so many times, that the thing is, we're going to treat people the way that we wanted to be treated. We're going to treat, and the thing, we can't say here, we're not going to say here what your deal is for your show on our streaming service. It's not your audience business, but it's a good deal. You won't get that deal anywhere else.
Right.
And the thing is, we've had other people in the industry go, "Ah, you guys are losers. What are maroons? You guys, you're so naive. You shouldn't give that to people." And what they don't want people like us coming and disrupting the industry. And we want to disrupt. Our whole Red Coral universe, Red Coral streaming service is artists first. That artists should make more money than us. And that's what we feel. That's what we believe. So
Sounds good to me. I like it. All right, so we got to Family Ties and then spinoff show, which got just discombobulated crazy. I had to
baby.
I had to get my babysitter excited to watch this movie because I told her that I grew up on this movie here, and My Demon Lover. If you haven't seen it, stop this podcast, come back to it, go to YouTube, just look up the trailer for it. I think they mentioned your name 6 times in a minute-long trailer, starring Scott Valentine, with Scott Valentine.
Wait a second. Oh,
What's he got?
baby, I'm doing an interview on a podcast. You can't scare me like that. It's my wife.
Oh, okay.
Just walked in and scared me, dag nabbit. You want to say hi to Natalie and Wes?
I don't know. After I scared you.
Go ahead. Say hi to Natalie and Wes.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, you got a great guy. You got a great guy.
Oh wait, I'm advertising my company. I have to like.
Oh, you can't do that. We got to blur that
Oh,
out.
well,
They're going to Cancun in September. They're going to send us the name of the resort, all inclusive.
love.
$1,400. We'll get you in there. It's
Have
awesome.
you been there?
We
Yeah.
go every year.
Yeah,
We go every
love
year.
it.
It's 6 of
Love
us. We love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. The aqua water. Oh,
Yes.
Beautiful.
yeah, let's,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'll not scare you anymore. Sorry.
All right, go on, get your butt out of here.
Bye. Nice to meet you.
Bye.
I
Hey,
love you.
watch our show on Red Coral Universe.
Look,
Oh, dude, that's awesome. I don't have that on DVD.
Very cool.
wait. Oh, look at this.
He just showed us, for the listeners, he just showed us Dead Time Stories on Blu-ray. He's got memorabilia he's holding up. Dead Time Stories poster.
Oh, sweet.
Wow, is this a window card?
No, it's not a poster. Are you ready?
Wow,
Now look at this.
it's an album. Wow. Is this Laserdisc? Or is this an album?
Yes.
Laserdisc.
Look at the color.
That's beautiful.
That is cool.
That is very cool. Yeah, man. I love it. I love
Can
it.
you see? Wait, where's that signature? Melissa Leo. You know Melissa's in this.
Tell me, how do I know Melissa Leo? Sounds familiar.
Academy Award winner from The Fighter.
Okay, okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So back to My Demon Lover. Now,
Yeah,
don't you get dressed up like that at all for Natalie, okay?
as my demon lover,
Yeah.
you know, so I wanted to do movie makeup special effects. I think I told you in my podcast when I did it with you in your podcast. And I was probably 10 years old when that movie came out. My dad had a video store and I was allowed to watch anything. There was no rating system, didn't go for the Iseli kids. We were allowed to watch anything. And dude, it wasn't scary, but it had like movie makeup special effects. To me, I thought of it more like it was a comedy, but it was more like a Scooby-Doo. It wasn't scary at all. It wasn't going to haunt my dreams. And I loved it. And you were the leading man. You had this cute blonde that just fell in love with you, and you were eating out of the garbage. You were a bum, and you still won her over. And I'm like, daggone it, that dude's got something. And you were the man. You were the star. It was so awesome.
What every woman wants is a guy that eats out of the garbage, you know? I mean,
You turned that around to make her want you, and you told her, "I don't want you. I can't have sex with you. Sorry." And she's begging for you, and I'm like, "Dude, I'm 10 years old. I'm taking notes. How do you do this?"
Oh, geez.
But how was the makeup with that? Was that your first time in like heavy makeup? Was it 12 hours or was it just a mask?
you know, the funny thing is, Wes, when I got offered that, and I still, and unfortunately, believe that I never should have done that movie. Although there are a lot of folks that are, and I just, the movie at the time failed. And actually, we came out the same weekend as The Secret of My Success with Michael J. Fox.
Wow.
And he kicked our ass, you know, but such is life. When I read the script, and Natalie, I don't think, have you ever seen the movie?
Yeah, I watched it just last weekend.
Okay, so you know, at one point I play an old Jewish woman, and another point I play like a fat Buddha man, and another point I play like a leopard or something. Then I play this monster. I morph into all these different characters. And when I read the script, I thought, well, this is cool. It's kind of like theater. It's sort of like a Greek tragedy. I become all these different characters. I thought, yeah, I can get into this. I'll try this. I didn't realize that I actually had to become all those other characters. And I didn't realize, again, I'm looking for a picture that I found of me in the makeup chair, getting that makeup on. Some of that makeup when I was the monster with the double horns,
Uh-huh.
and it came over and it went all the way down my arms and to here. That took 13 hours to get into.
Wow.
That's what I was
13
thinking.
hours to get into the makeup. Then I shot for 16 hours, and then it took 3 hours to get out of the makeup. So if you do the math, that was a 32-hour day. And that was a week of 32-hour days. And I was just,
When
you
did you
know,
sleep?
well, you have, I mean, per the law, you had a 12-hour turnaround, which meant from the time you're released from the set to the time they can bring you back is 12 hours. But then you're driving home, you're trying to get to sleep, you still got this goop in your eyelashes and in your ears, and it was crazy. I would never do it again. I don't know how. Remember that show Beauty and the Beast?
Mm-hmm.
With Ron Perlman had to get into that.
Yeah.
I don't know how he did it. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how somebody had to do that time and time and time again. I think a lot of that now is done with CGI.
Well, Jerry and the Grinch, he was talking about, and he had contacts and everything. And
yeah,
teeth. Yeah, dude, I don't know. So that long in the makeup.
well,
You
the
wouldn't do
other
it-
thing too, remember the hands
Mm-hmm.
and the nails? And I couldn't unzip my pants. I couldn't. So in order to urinate, I had to have one of the makeup artists go to the bathroom with me. And
Oh my.
You're the star. You're the star of the thing. I mean, that's
Wes is like, what? That doesn't happen all the time? Only
Yeah,
when you have makeup
you're the
on?
star. You're the star of the movie.
I should have just had a
Cut
catheter.
the
They should have.
nails.
They should have just put a catheter in me. I could have had a bag walking around, you know?
But you said it was a flop. But according to IMDb, it doubled its money.
It made about 30 million all in.
Right.
Wow.
But it
Yeah.
only cost
It
less
only
than
cost 4 million.
Okay.
And
the IMDb
over
numbers are wrong.
36 years, it's made about 30 million. But at the time, you see, at the time also, Hollywood's it's a very fickle lover. And I should have done a movie where I didn't take the lead. I came on Family Ties and I got a great response. And I became one of the hottest guys on TV at the time. And to go from TV to then the lead in a movie, it was perceived as being very arrogant and very cocky, of like, oh, he thinks he can be a movie star. Where I just thought, well, that's the normal thing to do. You do a TV show, you do a movie. I just thought I had nobody coaching me saying, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. The gentleman who was my manager, who actually died in the first year I was on Family Ties, he was John Travolta's manager. He was other big actors, their managers. And he
Wow.
would have been able to coach me through that perception in the business. And it would have been smarter of me to imagine if I had come out and done 1 or 2 scenes in a movie with Al Pacino, right? Where the burden was upon Al Pacino to be great in the movie. And I was just seasoning. I wasn't the main course. And that would have been the right choice to make. That would have been the smart choice. Because if the movie failed, it wouldn't have been on me. It would have been on Al Pacino. And they would have said, oh, this kid from Family Ties who came in, he did okay. He did a couple of nice scenes, yada, yada. That's what I should have done. But as they say, hindsight's 20/20, right? Cheers.
Well, dude,
Yeah.
I love the movie. I love it. I love it. Thank you.
Well-
Thank you for this gift. Thank you for the notes that are attached. He wrote a note on the front. He wrote a note inside, but I have it on the back cover so it stands up. Dude, it means the world to me. I have it on display in my magic room.
I love you, brother. I love you.
I really do. I really do.
Let me give
So,
you a hug. You know,
I-
looking back on it now, though, Wes, seriously, looking back on it 36 years later, it's fun. And it was fun. And we had a lot of fun, you know? It was a lot of fun. And the guy who was the director, I'm still very good friends with, Charlie Loventhal, is a sweetheart of a guy. The gal who played the female lead, Michelle Little, she's a very, very sweet guy. And there was a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of people, like the guys who did the special effects makeup, they were great guys. Robert Trevor, the guy who played the geeky dude who essentially was the real bad guy, he was a great guy. So there was
Now, who was the black guy? I feel like I recognized him from something else.
Arthur, he's now dead. And he was in other stuff. He had, what was his name? Here, we can look real quick on IMDb.
Well, I can, yeah, we can look it up. So I got a question for you just about show business, and maybe you can answer it. If you can't, just go further. Just skip over it. How do you become a producer just on like a major television show like news radio? How do you become a producer just for like one episode? How does that happen?
For one episode?
Yeah, how do you produce one episode in and out? How does that happen? IMDb has you producing an episode of news radio, just one episode. Outside, and we're just trying to figure that out.
At the time, having the amount of like popularity I had, and the amount of swing and sway, Arnold Johnson, that was his name, Arnold Johnson.
There you go.
The black dude. I think that was more so like as a sort of a gimme to come and do I did a part on news radio also.
Okay.
So it's like, well, if I come, I want a producer's credit also, because I was wanting to build a career as a producer.
Gotcha.
And I think that was sort of like, here's a gimme.
Oh, okay.
Because, you know, as an actor, you spent time on sets, you know, and when you're an actor, there's an inordinate amount of time where you're just sitting around waiting. And that would drive me nuts.
People have no idea. People have no idea.
And
Before cell phones, what did you do?
well, and people were like, "Well, would you like a bagel? Can we get you a bagel? How about a cup of coffee? One other bagel? Yeah. Want the newspaper? I can get you the newspaper. How about a crossword puzzle? You know?" And like, "Do you know your lines? You got your lines?" And I would be on set all the time watching what they were doing, and then I'd be watching the line producer, the first AD, the like the mechanics of what was going on of the production. And then I wanted to know, what did things cost, who was responsible for what they cost, who was responsible for watching those costs, you
Smart.
know, who was responsible for getting the equipment to the set, who was responsible for everything. So that fascinated me more and more, and my desire to want to become a producer, to have more control over stuff. You know, producers don't make anywhere near as much money as the stars, but you have more control over your fate. And right now, with what I'm doing with Larry, you know, we'll have multiple projects going at once. So we'll have some projects up in Canada, we'll have some projects in Oklahoma, we'll have some projects down in Alabama. So whereas if you're an actor, you can only be in one place at a time. So I'll be able to have multiple balls in the air.
Time is flying. I only have you like 15 more minutes, but I have so many questions. He has 102 credits on his IMDb account, folks. CSI New York, JAG, Batman Beyond, voice acting. I just wrote down some of the ones that I know, and there's so many. But Batman Beyond, Animaniacs. I come home from school in the afternoons. Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain will be on. I love news radio. I'm a huge Superman fan. So your voice acting in Superman interests me. I saw the clip from Lewis and Clark. All of my kids are named after Superman characters. I have Lana is my daughter's name. My oldest twin is Julian Clark. And then I have Lex as my youngest twin. And Duke Metallo, I'm going to watch that tonight. I have all I have
Dean Kane's a sweetheart. He's a sweetheart. You know, the funny thing is, I did a movie with Joan Severance. I don't know if you know who she is.
I know the name.
Okay.
I have to make this with him.
And Dean played a valet in the movie, a very teeny tiny part. And he kept asking me question after question after question after question. Now, Dean was an excellent football player in college. And I think he played 1 year in the pros, and then he blew out his knee or blew out his elbow or something. And led either in college, I think he led NC2A Division I in like interceptions or something. He was very good at what he was doing. Very handsome guy. His father was a director in Hollywood. And Dean just kept asking me question after question after question. I'm like, my God, will this guy ever stop asking me? But he was very sweet. He was very polite. Very polite. And then the next thing you know, I don't know, 4 or 5 years later, here I am as a guest on a show that he's a star of, and he's just a consummate gentleman, just a sweetheart of a guy. But then you fast forward another, whatever, 3, 4 years, 5 years, and his son Christopher becomes buddy with my son Caden. Wow. So then Dean and I are coaching our sons together in football. You know, and it's just funny how it all kind of weaves together. It was funny where our kids would play football. The local park on Barrington, it was like a who's who of actors and musicians and writers and directors of kids of, you know, their fathers and mothers, of different kids playing football, baseball, basketball, you know, from oh God, the guy, Harrison Ford's wife, what's her name? What's her name?
Yeah.
Calista Flockhart,
to the guy from Fleetwood Mac, Lindsey Buckingham, to the guy that played Meathead on All in the Family.
Yes, can't think of his name, but yes, he's famous. Famous director.
To the guy that owned one of the biggest bond companies in Hollywood, to Ellen Barkin, to I can't think of his name, the Irish guy that she was married to just, I mean, just it was funny because where it was, and it was just, and it was funny because in a way it was kind of neat because it was all kids, and kids, you know, are the greatest sort of like they make you lose your ego.
Equalizer.
The
Yeah.
greatest equalizer. Yeah, they bring everything down to the same level, you know. So I loved that it made everything very sort of even playing field, literally and metaphorically, you know,
Wow.
which was wonderful. And Dean was just he was just a sweetheart. And then you had guys who were, you know, famous pro football players who their kids were on teams that I coached and Dean coached, and guys who were like standout in the pros and all that. So it was a great experience.
Well, Dean also hosts Masters of Illusion, which I would love to get on only because he hosts it. I want to meet him. I want a picture with him. It would be great. But I think they do that in post anyway. I don't think he's really there. I think they do.
Really?
Yeah. So we only have 10 minutes. Can I ask you about the new NFL Alumni Wellness Challenge? It's on your IMDb. Are you allowed to talk about it yet?
Sure. We've made a deal with the NFL Alumni Association. The gentleman who's the president of the Alumni Association, Bart Oates, is our partner. We've got that show, and we have another show with them. It's a tailgating show about who's the best tailgater, and it's not just cooking. I don't know if you've ever gone to an NFL game and seen these people. Yeah, how crazy these people are with their tailgating, and how tricked out their whole rig can be with the whole cooking ensemble and the TVs and all that. That, you know, there are some people that go to the games and they just hang out in the parking lot for the whole game. They don't even have tickets to the game, and they're there for just the tailgating aspect of it. But the wellness challenge, it's something that came about from the NFL. And people go, oh, it's just another big, you know, biggest loser, big fat loser, biggest loser, whatever. This is a show that will focus on not just your physicality, but also your mental state of being, your financial state of being, your relationship, and how that is in every aspect of life. We've already shot.
They work so hard to become an NFL star, and their career is over so quickly. And they've worked since childhood to become that star, and now they can't be that anymore. I can't imagine if magic ripped out from under me, or you had acting or show business ripped out from under you without you
deciding it.
Without you deciding.
The NFL has done some tremendous work with, you know, there's the issue with CTE, and that is not an aspect of this show, but that's one thing where the NFL has stepped in and said, we've got to help these guys, and we've got to help them and show them how to manage their money. The NBA has done that as well. I don't know what MLB does, but I presume they do, because you're taking a kid, and a lot of times these are kids who are 19, 20 years old, and you're suddenly making them millionaires. And how do you handle that money, and how do you protect yourself? But also, how do you deal with the mental aspects of that? Look, I certainly know when I got on Family Ties, I was ill prepared for the next day after the first episode that I was on. I was ill prepared for the fame and all the adulation. And these guys in the NFL, look, a lot of them got to deal with, whether they're white guys or black guys or Hispanic guys, they've got to deal. A lot of times they're not from such great communities, and they got to deal with old friends or old acquaintances from the hood, or from the, you know, from the old neighborhood. And the NFL has taken steps to be able to arm them mentally, emotionally, and how to, you know, be able to survive and subsist in a world where suddenly you're a millionaire and you've got all these people pulling at you. So this is a challenge where we will team up regular Americans with NFL alumni,
Yeah.
and get them. There will be a competition of folks improving their life, not just their weight, but their mental status, their physical, their emotional, their financial status, and coaching them.
It sounds like an awesome show, because what's cool about it is it brings in a whole bunch of things. You can have NFL fanatics that love the show, but you also have housewives that could care less about that, but they love the storyline of helping these people out. Then you got the fun aspect.
You know, The thing is too, Wes, there's this great campaign that the NFL had started too, and I believe, I don't know if this is their exact verbiage they have used for it, but to say that it's okay to say that I'm not okay. And
Yeah.
I think, is that what it is, Natalie?
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good doing that.
And look, I went to therapy when I was 19. I had a teacher when I went to New York that said to me, you may benefit from therapy. And I'm like, me? Therapy? What do you mean? I'm fine. And I did not come from the rosiest of upbringings, and therapy benefited me tremendously. I think at times, if we call it coaching instead of therapy and have life coaching, that it will do people tremendous amounts of benefit. And if we can help societally, maybe there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of dissension, a lot of division. And that if we can teach people that it's better to say, I'm not okay, I don't feel right. And this is oversimplifying it, but I need a hug,
Is this show going to come out of Red Coral, or is it going to go somewhere else?
Well, it'll be produced and funded by Red Coral. We're looking to see if we can have a partner. We've got to see how this goes here. Red Coral, our launch is literally today, June 19th. And we'll have to see how many registrants we get on our platform. Is that big enough? We've already had some offers from other established networks where they're saying, well, we want the show. We'll carry the show. To be able to have the shield is a beautiful thing. We're not sure if we want to give that away or not.
Well, I'm trying to find your picture. Take a picture of the screen here, because I need to post today that Red Coral Universe just went live today. This is fantastic news, man. Thank you for letting us be a part of this. Thank you for everything you've done for me, dude. I am such a huge fan of yours. Like I said,
dude, I'm a huge fan of yours.
Hey, I taught you a magic trick last time we talked. Tell me you've done it. You ready for another one?
Are
you ready for another one?
Oh, look at my call's coming up right now.
Okay, all right, we'll let you go.
No, we got to go to Cancun together.
Yes.
I would love it. What days are we going? September what?
12th to the 19th. Come join us.
All right, cool.
Dude,
seriously, can we exchange that information on email?
Yes.
Because it sounds.
Yes.
Yeah.
We sure will.
You met Jen. You see what a sweetheart she is, right?
Yeah.
It's fun. She'd be fun to hang out with.
Yes. As long as she isn't my 2-year-olds. My 2-year-olds are great unless it's nap time. Other than that, they're off the walls, but they're great other than nap time. But
dude, I am great with kids.
Nice.
Dude, this would be amazing. It would make my year if you came on vacation with us. That would be so awesome.
We can make a show out of it. We can put it on the streaming service. Okay?
I'm going to videotape it anyway.
Okay.
Videotape it anyway. It's a tax deduction. It's Wes Iseli's Magiclife. It's part of my Magiclife.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, dude. Thank you so much.
You guys rock.
Bless you. Red Coral Universe, sign up today. It went live today. Please check it out. Scott Valentine, everybody. And only one more thing left for us to say is see you next week.
Love you guys. Take care.
Check us out online at wesisley.com and patreon.com/Wes_Isley for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled Wesiseli.